Hi, this is Todd Harold coming at you with a fresh new drum lesson after a long absence. So sorry about that. But we're going to talk today about Syncopation by Ted Reed, an old book that was interpreted a lot of different ways by the great drum teacher Alan Dawson. And then he sort of picked it up at Berklee College of Music, and a lot of people use it a lot of different ways. And I've talked to some people that have studied with Alan Dawson, and I've come up with some ways. I don't know if they're mine or not. It's really hard to say whether I came up with it or I just sort of grabbed it out of the universe and somebody else had come up with it, or I just stole it from somebody. I'll give credit if I did. But anyway, what we're looking at is, in my book, it's page 37, but I have an older book, and in some of the newer books, it's page 38. It says Syncopation at the top, and we'll show that now. Cool. So that's what the page looks like. You should get your own book, though. You should get your own book. But I'm going to work with just the first four lines. The first four lines will go like this. That's how that goes. Now, these are variations on just doing those first four lines. So we'll start with the one that I've been doing with students for a long time, and there's actually another video from several years back of me doing this exercise. And it's with your feet. The quarter notes on the bottom of the line, where the bass drum would usually be, are going to be the hi-hat. And then the top line will interpret with the bass drum. So you've got the hi-hat on the bottom, or hi-hat keeping quarters, and the bass drum playing what we'll call the melody. And it goes like this. So that's with your feet. I would like to say that I got that idea from watching a video of Carlos Santana and Wayne Shorter live in Japan, I think, from the 80s. And the drummer was a guy named Leon Ndugu Chancellor, a great drummer. And he did a big section of the solo where he just kept quarters or eighths on the hi-hat and then played the bass drum, different things on the bass drum. And I thought, well, how would I develop that? And the way that I developed that was through playing syncopation. And that's the idea, is this isn't an end in itself. This is a means to an end. This is an open door to creativity. And that's what I really want this to be seen as. The next way that we're going to do it is what I got from a friend of mine, Ted Sirota, great drummer from Chicago, great drummer and great teacher. If you're looking for drum lessons in the Chicago area, check out Ted Sirota. He gave me this one. He actually studied with Alan Dawson, and I don't know whether Alan Dawson showed him this one or not, but this was his idea when I talked to him. And what we've got here is like quarter notes on the snare drum and eighths on the hi-hat, as if you were playing an old Motown song, or I Want to Take You Higher by Sly and the Family Stones, something like that, and then developing the bass drum out of that. So the bass drum is playing the same thing, but you're keeping eighths on the hi-hat and quarters on the snare. And it goes like this. So we got the I Want to Take You Higher variation there. Thank you, Ted Sirota. I want to move on to another a great drummer, Jeff Sipe, an idea that I got from Jeff Sipe. And if you haven't checked out Jeff Sipe, killer drummer, killer drummer. And I heard him do this thing where he opened the hi-hat. Probably actually got it from somewhere else, but I heard Jeff do it. And he did it on the Aquarium Rescue Unit record, and it's kind of the shikadoon, 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 1 EN, 2 EN, 3 EN, 4 EN. And I've got cross stick happening on quarters. So you've still got the quarters on the snare drum, but this time it's cross stick, which becomes a balance issue, and then you've got kind of a busier hi-hat pattern. So that, and the bass drum stays the same, that's our next variation. Check that out. This sounds like this. Okay, the next one, we're still keeping that same ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, the first 4 lines of page 37 or 38, depending on what book you have, of Syncopation. We're gonna do a roll with the hands on the snare, roll on the snare, and we're going to use the melody that we call it, the melody, the exercise. We're going to play that with our bass drum and our cymbals. And we're going to keep some sort of pattern. In this case, I'm going to keep 8th notes on the hi-hat, but we're going to do them as crash cymbals. Ga da 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 da. So check that out. It's like this. And finally, we'll do that same thing where we're keeping a roll on the snare drum, and this is a little bit more challenging. And your bass drum is still playing the exercise, but we're going to utilize hi-hat barks. I got this idea from seeing a Steve Gadd video. Steve Gadd playing with Eric Clapton at Montreux. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, but he's got a solo where he does this thing where he's doing hi-hat barks and in a melodic kind of concept, if you want to call this kind of melodic concept. And once again, we're using this as a doorway to creativity. You don't want to play this verbatim, but it's a great exercise to open up your creativity and find new ways of playing things. So here's what I call the Steve Gadd hi-hat bark variation, number 5. So that's the hi-hat bark variation. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to get at me. That's great. I sure appreciate you watching. Hope you liked this. I hope you check out other ways to interpret syncopation. There's tons of different ways to interpret this. As I said, I think there were over 200 ways that Alan Dawson originally came up with. Thank God for Alan Dawson. What a great teacher. And if you haven't checked out his rudimental ritual yet, that's monstrous too. That'll do so much for your chops. And just keep working, keep playing. It's the greatest thing on earth, playing drums. See you soon.